Everything we know, the entire universe, might just be a simulation running inside a supercomputer. In this dream world of the imagination, anything is possible. Join us on the Simulationist podcast as we explore our culture of simulations.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the Simulationist podcast, your place for all things imaginary and simulated and the world of sci-fi.
If it didn't really happen, that's our dig.
And fantasy. And all those other things. I am Josh Trelevin.
Co-host extraordinaire on the other end, Ryan Kirkby.
And there's Ryan Kirkby. It is iteration 177 this week. We're recording this on the 24th of January, 2016. You are listening later than that because we don't do this live, but it's pretty close.
It's a little late tonight. We might finish actually on the 25th.
Oh, good point. Yeah, we always go...
Well,
just sit back and relax for another 90 minutes to 2 hours to who knows how long of talk about geeky stuff and story stuff.
I think we got some good geeky stuff this week.
Yeah.
But I do want to a bit of an update from last week for the DMs Guild.
The Dungeon Masters Guild.
Yes, that's where you can put all your created modules for the Forgotten Realms that'll get you a chance to get some money. Now I checked it out. Apparently the bookshelf people that are running the website, the top bookshelf people, they are the parent company for RPG Now and DriveThruRPG. So if you think that the sites look a little alike, it's because it's the same company.
Oh, and so we're saying they're not competing. There's nobody trying to.
Yes, which was the big fear I had last week. Was it's like, oh man, these guys are gonna have to start getting sweating because oh my, there's nervousness going on here. No worries. Same company. That just means they're specializing each one.
Although now that you mentioned that, I'm worried that it's a big monopoly, but. Well,
a monopoly is only a bad thing when there's bad people controlling it. A monopoly in the hands of good, benevolent people that care, that's fantastic.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, because they care. And that means, hey, you don't have to worry about some jerk sneaking his way in, man. No, it's a monopoly. The good guys got it. They got it all covered. And they've always treated me well. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to complain too hard because the other thing is, why not start a new, if you think monopolies are so bad, just start the competing version. And
that's the thing, if you really don't like it, and you think you can do so much better, then that must mean they're not doing something right, so they're not really the best good guys out there.
Yeah, so that's when you take up
that'd be like starting up a separate Wikipedia because you don't like the first one. It's no, Wikipedia is pretty good. It's governed by and large, a decent group of people. So you really don't need two, online encyclopedias covering all generic information. Now, the proper little wiki sites for, I want to learn more about, this cartoon series.
There's a lot of wikis out there. I was just going to say,
but they're very specific wikis focused on a very narrow, slice of information.
Okay.
As opposed to, the Wikipedia, which would be much more generic, you want to learn, the arcing thing about it, and not grand detail of every specific sub-character. You got your coverage.
Wikipedia gets that status. I don't know if we want to talk about Wikipedia, but it gets that from having an open platform that literally invites. It's not just their own company that can do it. It's literally anyone can edit it.
And that's what makes them so good. That way you don't need the competing online dictionaries.
Yeah.
And information encyclopedias. Because it's all there in one nice big wiki source thing.
Yeah, that's a new way of doing things that Wikipedia sort of invented. Well, I mean, they borrowed it from the idea of Creative Commons and open source coding, and then that became open source knowledge, which is, I think,
that's one of the best sounding terms I've ever heard. Open source knowledge.
Yeah.
Speaking from a guy who's going to be paying his student loans for a very long time to come, the concept of free information sounds pretty boss.
Yeah. It's it's a new way of achieving a monopoly through anyways,
but yes, okay, so back to what we were saying there is and I had a thought this week about because
the Dungeon Masters Guild.
The Dungeon Masters Guild, yeah. Now, I am not the biggest fan of the Forgotten Realms. My brother Adam's the one who read all the books back in the day. I was more over into the Dragonlance and the Ravenloft sort of thing. I don't have any hate for the Forgotten Realms. Maybe a little bit of like tiredness of some of their more overly used characters.
Yeah.
Diversify your well, heck, this is coming from a guy that read on that Raceland fellow for so long. Oof.
Okay.
So I guess maybe I'm not on any high ground to speak, but it's nice to have a bunch of different characters to follow through and not just go back to your sword wielding, like a drow elf. But that's okay. I have no ill will against any of them.
I see.
So I was thinking, okay, so like if I'm going to be writing for the DM's Guild.
Oh, okay, so you're thinking
it's
about
like,
it.
Okay, no, like what's going to be my incentive to get into this Forgotten Realms setting? I mean, I got the material. I can go for. I have box sets in 2nd edition. I got the campaign setting in 3rd. I'm eyeing some stuff from 5th edition when I get the spare money for it. Make sure I'm all up to speed and all that sort of thing. So it came down to a thing like, what am I going to do? What's going to like draw me into this world? And that's when it occurred to me is the bit we were talking about last week, whether or not we were certain as to how it goes, like whether or not they're going to have to agree, to get like more like, our signature if they want to use our, like the adventures.
If Wizards of the Coast wants to use what you've written in their own stuff somehow.
For like, they want to put it in a video game or they want to market it, it's like part of like, oh, here's, like Tales of, the Forgotten Realms, like a bunch of adventures all together for you. If they want to do that, they can. And it occurs to me, it's like, but if they do that, it has at least some degree of canonicity. It becomes like official. Yeah. So then, there's stuff like, it's like, now if I had my way, I'd do this different, man. Okay. I'd really bring these on. If I was going to run like if I was going to make an official module for Wizards of the Coast, I would involve this. And it's like, yes, now's my chance to actually do that. If I can write a campaign, or at least an adventure, good enough, strong enough, and compelling enough, there's a good chance it'll get popular, picked up, and made official. So I got to say to myself now, what were those things? What was it I wanted? And it came back to me, the myconids, the veggie pygmies.
Okay, so that's where you're going to make your mark. You're going to.
Well, I always liked them. They had so much good potential, and yet they always seem to get reduced down to like a bunch of fungal hippies, just getting high off each other's like spore shrooms. And I suppose there's a thing for that, but they always struck me as like they could be a really good, because they're in the Underdark and they're like one of the least evil things in the Underdark, so they could really be seen as like effectively a relative beacon of light. And there's like mold is everywhere, man. Mildew's everywhere. They could have all sorts of stuff going on there, just in the corners of the Forgotten Realms' Underdark, man. They could be like a spy network or something. They could be like the Bothans that died to bring you this information. Who knows? And so now that I'm thinking about it, it's like, yes, that's going to be my lure in. I'm going to find out what I would like to change if I could change, and I'll make an adventure based on that, and by golly, if I make it good enough, maybe I will change. Maybe I can, get things to be how I think they could be. If only they had this chance. I will give them this chance. I will pour through all the stuff. I'm going to go back. I'm going to start looking. I'm going to start reading. I'm going to make notes. It's like, I like this. What about this for a notion? I'm going to see what comes up. I'm going to see what sticks to the wall, man. This is a chance. This is not just for me. It's a chance for anyone out there who's ever looked at stuff and goes, this is not bad, but they really should be focusing on this, because I think this would make for some really good adventure stories. Yep. Now's your chance, man. Put your money where you put your mouth.
Yeah. Well, I've always found that inspirational about D&D is they will give you, a paragraph or two of sort of starter ideas, and that's
one
of
the
whole
things
idea of D&D.
They actually recommend you do. For what I was reading, like what is the DM's Guild, and they think like what's the chances of can you reference other people's works here? And they say, if you thought like they put out a nice adventure hook but never followed up on that, by all means write an adventure on that. And so it's like yes, and that's explicitly what they try and do in the campaign setting books. It's like, here's 300 pages of really good campaign hooks for a campaign we hope you'd like in this setting.
Yeah,
you just got to come up with it yourself.
Well, and I've seen some people do campaign journals, and some are more detailed than others. Like when they, sometimes they have one of the players in the group is really keen on documenting everything the group does.
We once kept track of every creature we killed.
Yeah, exactly.
Very specific in that one, but yeah.
And a weekly campaign journal, it doesn't take long. Like some campaigns will last for years at a time, with your gaming group. But that can like blossom out into, a hundreds of pages volume just about those particular characters and their exploits. And that the whole idea of a campaign setting book is that it feeds that. Like, it gives you ideas that then become, more juicy. In some cases, maybe it's a little boring. Sometimes it's more fun to actually live it than to read it, but depending on the writer, too.
If you have played it, it's always nice to go back and reminisce, because I can go back through that list of creatures we killed, like, I remember when we got to that. I remember that, I had completely forgotten about that. Oh, it was very entertaining. I remember when we went there and we slaughtered everyone in that spot. Yes, haha.
Although I've also witnessed the other way around, where the campaign was kind of slow and a little bit like, I don't know, maybe I was falling asleep.
Meandering?
This is not a criticism against, I think it was probably Darren, but at the time
we were that name out, man. You get sued.
I'm sure he's fine. I'm sure. Hi, Darren, if you're listening. I doubt you're listening to the podcast, but maybe I'll send you a link to this one so you can. Hey, let's get in contact again. He's in Prince George. So,
yes. I remember Darren.
Yeah, you remember Darren.
Yeah.
But no, we were all kind of sitting around the living room. We were all kind of sleepy and just kind of moving very slowly as far as the campaign goes. But at the same time, CJ was taking notes, and she was like writing these amazing like summaries of the stuff that was going on. When I went back to read her notes and stuff, I was like, oh, this is actually like really cool and compelling. Like, this is a good story. But I don't remember it being that fun while we played it. I mean, we had fun at times, but also like we had a lot of just, I don't know, slow stuff happening. Maybe it was because my character wasn't in the
Sometimes an adventure is not all about the combat. Sometimes it's about the interaction.
Yeah, and I think we varied it up. We had some of both. We had some.
Well, this is the three pillars of like the game. It's the exploration, it's the combat, and it's the interaction with the NPCs.
Yeah. And yeah.
So sometimes, like when one person's interacting and everyone else just takes a backseat, let that person shine. It can seem a little slow. C'est la vie. That's what happens when you're not always taking center stage.
I think that might have been why I was feeling it. But the point is, like, a campaign can feel boring in play, but can turn into a really great prose story, and vice versa.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
There you go. Just make sure you copy the stuff down, and keep in mind, like, how would you do things differently? And this is your chance to make, like, your stuff official. Make it count. Make it, because keep in mind here, the gnomes they have for 5th edition are, I think, effectively default Tinker gnomes. It's like, that's a Dragonlance thing. Before Dragonlance, all gnomes were like woodland, we're reclusive woodland people sort of gnomes.
Well, 3rd edition split them into rock gnomes and forest gnomes. Yeah. I think rock gnomes were the official, the main one, and then forest gnomes were presented in the monster manual.
But before the rock gnome took center stage, it was always the forest gnome, the reclusive ones hiding out.
And I think 4th edition actually officially had 2 options because all the races had a couple of sub-race options when you first start out. And I think 5th edition carried that on alongside.
Which is nice.
So you have when you create a gnome in the 5th edition player's handbook, you always choose whether you're going to be rock gnome or forest gnome.
Yeah, I think you can't just be gnome.
And I think maybe Svirfneblin is an option too.
I believe they have been used as of one of the big arcs that they did. You pick up the campaign options for the player's handbook on that one.
Okay.
But yes, but because they decided to change things up for Dragonlance, they changed the face of gnomes in there. It became a different gnome.
Yeah, you put your stamp on a creature. Like, you take a creature, you put your stamp, you make
Gnomes
it. Gnomes
are nice, but they're just like short people with like tall hats hiding out, in the woods, like messing around with like spells and poetry and gems. I don't know. I think we can do better than that. What if they had like a huge like a dead volcano, and they're all in there, and they're all like working with stuff, and they're like steampunk, man. They got like instead of like taking an elevator, they launch you up on like effectively like a trebuchet style. Like, wouldn't that be awesome? Bam, melt, never mind. Dragonlance setting. Becomes like the future of the crazy gnomish style. So it's like, you know what? I've always really liked, but I've never seen really get used wonderfully in a campaign option. The Abiel people, like the bee folk.
Oh, yeah, people.
I think there could be some very good stories told there. I think you could have some wonderful stories with them as NPCs, both hostile as well as friendly.
Yeah, I feel like there was a dungeon adventure feature. I think people occasionally pick them up and do.
But there hasn't been anything that's like you look at the box set like Men's Overruns and the City of the Underdark. There's nothing that's
whole
said
box set
like
just be people. Yeah.
There's nothing that's said like this is something that changes things up and bam, this is what people will remember. This is what defines and changes them. This is what really puts them under the the spotlight. Okay, people say they really acknowledge it, and that's something I want to try and do. If I'm going to be doing adventures and all that, it's going to wind up doing I'm going to see what creatures I think were great but never got the limelight like they deserved, and I'll do that. I mean, I'll have fun with that. I'll make it a thing. I'll get them their chance to shine, and it'll force me to step up. If I really think they're that great, then I should be able to tell a great story about them. Come on, buddy. Let's see what you can do. So, yeah.
All right.
So now I gotta do a lot of back reading, at least browsing, and see what catches the eye, and think, oh, there was a good idea here, and it followed through with.
I suppose, yeah. Another thing you can do is you can find a race that might not even catch your eye necessarily, but it's like maybe somebody threw in oh, this person is like a Flirbnog. And you're like, Flirbnogs are the only time they're ever mentioned is one person needed a throwaway name for another, creature. And you can say, no, I'm going to do the Flirbnogs are going to be my thing.
The Flirbnogs, of course, are being the slightly purple-skinned humanoids with the two horns on their head that are not demonic at all.
Right.
I've just made that up.
Perfect. Oh,
but that's the sort of thing. It's you'll be watching a movie, oh, look at how diversified this alien bazaar is, and there's almost always some creature with a purple skin, sort of thing, and two tiny little horns protruding out. It's yeah, there we go. There's the name for them, and now what's up with them?
Yeah. And
bada bing, bada boom.
Yeah.
You gotta have someone fill it.
And then that becomes if you publish it through the Dungeon Masters Guild, that becomes sort of part of the Forgotten Realms world that somebody else could pick up and continue on and carry
the torch, man. It's like the Olympics.
Yeah.
And you just got to keep. If you can't get it to the end of Brazier when it lights up to get that oh my goodness, this is that defining point. At least you've handed off the torch to someone else who says, I like your idea, I like where you're going, I think I can help finish this off. We can make something out of this. So hooray! And that's the fun thing is the DM's Guild looks like it's going to wind up being where you can take somebody else's notion and then go, okay, and I'm going to carry on with this because you had a good idea, and then I'm going to do this could work on its own, or you can use it very nicely after the end of this person's adventure.
Brazier?
Brazier, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Brazier is a different thing that we would know nothing about.
Pronounce it? Wow.
I don't know how the real way to pronounce it is, but I always said Brazier.
How about sconce? Can we just work with sconce?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. But yeah, so fingers crossed. I think the DM's Guild is going to wind up being an amazingly good, massive potential, if nothing else. Plus free adventures for those who want a free adventure, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So hooray! And it looks like they've also got some nice things to give out for generic images you can put in on there, how to do a PDF and some stuff to help you out with everything on there, to help get you the good quality look.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's very, very friendly of them, and I'm liking it. I'm going to have to sit down and really browse through everything just to see, because there's a lot to take in, especially if you want to take it in with the depth I want to take it in, not just skim it. So I got a lot of stuff ahead of me this week. But yes, just what about speaking? And forget this week. Coming up. How about this week that's happened? How about you, Josh? What's happened with you this week?
What have I done this week in simulations? Why I played D&D yesterday on Saturday. It was the Roll for Initiative. I was a player, not a dungeon master. I thought it was kind of iffy whether I'd get to be a dungeon master, but I did get to be a player this week, which was cool. We had a little adventure run by Andrew. I can't remember. It doesn't matter his last name because. It doesn't matter. But yeah, he ran I played a dwarf paladin.
Ooh. What kind of paladin?
Regular. I don't know.
Oh,
5th edition, so you take your oaths at level 2.
Ah, okay.
Didn't have an oath. Although I wasn't the nicest of paladins.
So you're thinking more like the Black Knight style?
I was kind of threatening people and stuff, so I think maybe we'll go paladin of retribution or whatever.
So were you stereotypically Scottish?
No, and
which is almost a shame because Scottish insults, and the threats tend to sound, even more threatening.
Maybe I should have gone with
the
voice.
You can make the ridiculous ones sound threatening with a Scottish accent.
I went with my own voice, and I think at some points people are like, "Hey, you're being kind of a jerk," because I was just like saying, "Hey, don't do that," and then it's like, "Wait, no, me or okay, that's in character." Okay, in character.
That's why you always do the moose horn when you're out of character. So you just put that one thing up on the side of your head.
Yeah.
It does help differentiate, especially when you're not going to do silly voices.
But that was set in the Forgotten Realms. It was a little
very nice
adventure, and we went on a boat, and we went to an island where there was like freaky people, like
inbred 70s or okay, no, I thought you meant freaky as in like they're all groovy and stuff.
Oh no, yeah,
okay,
yeah, we had an adventure, fought some monsters, fought a demon. That was fun.
Did you give it noogies? I believe as a paladin you're allowed to give demons noogies once you win.
Well, the thing about demons is, I don't know if you know this, but they annoyingly disappear after you kill them.
That's why you don't kill them right away. You incapacitate them at like 3 hit points, and then you noogie them down to 0.
I guess I could have tried something like that, but the thing is,
for extra flair.
We had a large group, and I kept on noticing this too, and I guess this is common for D&D, but we had a lot of firepower or, sword power, because basically every encounter was like,
plow through?
And we wouldn't even get to the end of the initiative order before the fight was over, and sometimes somebody wouldn't get to act. But I mean, that's typical for
something
D&D.
that happens with large groups. I remember a 100-person Magic: The Gathering thing, and some people didn't even get a chance to play a card before they died.
Yeah, that would be 100 people. Would be like that. So D&D Roll for Initiative. There's going to be another one on Wednesday. So if you're listening to this podcast as soon as it comes out, it might still not be too late to sign up for the Wednesday evening version of Roll for Initiative.
Congratulations.
It is a paid event, just for whatever reason, to cover costs, and it is like it's a big space.
Rent's not free.
Rent isn't free. So if you happen to have a spare $10, you like playing D&D, this Wednesday you can show up to Roll for Initiative. I'll put a link in our description of this podcast, so you can find it there, or else look up Roll for Initiative Victoria on Eventbrite. I don't think they have it on Facebook, although I should bother Alex about that, because that seems to be a good way to get people to come out to events, is Facebook events.
It does help her mind.
Yeah. Has been pretty good. And then, of course, if you miss that one, then there's always once a month we do it. We do Roll for Initiative, and I've been talking to Alex about being able to run as a dungeon master. I have a scenario ready to go. In the Hall of the Beaver King is the name of the scenario. So I mean, it's a little bit silly, but it's also it's typical D&D. So you do.
Well, that's the thing
stuff.
is the name can sound silly, but it can be pretty serious. I mean, there's like in the Temple of the Frog God.
Yep.
That's a classic adventure module.
Yeah, indeed. And I'm running a 3.5 version, so old school. But other people will be running 5th edition at the thing. May have 2 tables, may have even 3, but we'll see. I don't know. So that's that. That's D&D that I played.
Very nice.
I also played a little bit of Minecraft, and then what did I do? I built I think, did I mention last time I was planning out a sheep farm type thing?
Yes.
Okay. I had a really giant area, huge for sheep, and I divided into 12 segments, and I did it diagonally, so it's a diagonal square, because
like a diamond.
Yeah, it's a diamond. Yeah, that would be a diagonal square. Would be a diamond, unless you're looking at it from the diagonal direction, and then it's just a square.
I don't know. For some reason, my daughter can always tell the difference between a diamond and a square. She knows for certain if it's one or the other, no matter how you've got the page oriented.
Yeah, okay.
Don't know how, don't know why. Apparently there is a difference.
Yeah, but I built it that way because, sheep, or any Cretan in Minecraft, the way the code is there's a bias for northwest. So animals always, over time it's supposed to be random, but they always gradually kind of drift northwest from wherever you go. So
Call it Coriolis effect.
I guess so, yeah. Whatever it is. So if you build a diagonal enclosure, if it's really large and you build it on a northeast to southwest, that way whenever they go northwest, they're bumping up against the long edge. So they never really bunch up all in one corner too much.
Oh, very nice.
So that's why I have these long diagonal enclosures, and 12 of them I have 12 different colors of sheep. I know there's 16 in the games, but I've developed that.
Some of them are a little hard to get to if you don't have like all the resources on hand. You know, those mixtures are annoying.
And I think I made the enclosures like 32 squares by 10 squares each. So it's a pretty large, if you add them all together, 6 in a row. And anyways.
It's massive. Officially massive.
It's really big. And I had to dig out a lot of, because there was sort of hills, not mountains, so it wasn't that bad, but there were hills that I had to sort of cut all the stone out. So that's
I know on that one.
Yeah.
It's like the penchant for a flat land.
And right now it's sort of cut directly, like there's a straight line through the hills. And I've been thinking of like
just
I
tapering it out, mellow it down a little.
Yeah, I might make it level, like so it looks like it's natural. But it kind of looks a little bit cool when it's sort of a sheer cliff drop. The only problem
I was doing some work on Minecraft this week, and I just looked at the sheer cliff face. It's like, wow, that's awesome. Yeah, look at that. Look at that work I did. I just chopped the world there. So yeah, there's a coolness to it.
And have you ever in Minecraft, like updated to a different version where the terrain is different, and so where you go to new terrain and then you will run into like a sheer wall, like you have a plain here or a desert or something, and then suddenly it's like mountains, but like there's a
perhaps
flat wall.
There has been some issues whereby the mesa is just like boom, like right there, and it's just like not even tapered.
Yeah.
So maybe is my official answer.
Okay. It's kind of like, I know some people say it's really ugly. They don't really like it.
I don't know, because I was looking at some photos of like the far lands. It's like that was a pretty boss site to it. So you make like a false far lands biome would be pretty, boss. If you ask me.
I kind of like it. I like that it's because I mean,
sometimes cliffs happen.
Yeah. But yeah, for kilometers on one side of it, it's just normal terrain, and then kilometers on the other side, it's normal terrain. So it's not that bad to have this little strip in between where it's like a very abrupt change.
I mean, heck, there have been times I've been walking through and the chunk wouldn't load, and I could go into the chunk because I was like, whoa, just missing land there.
Yeah, that's always weird to see that.
It was pretty nice though, because I found out there was like a little like mine going on underneath me, so I just dug straight down and started looting. Woo!
And
Jeez.
so I've been doing that, building sheep farms, taking forever to try and flatten it all out from the hills, but I've got some nice sheep area now, and hopefully I can step up some wool production and really build some awesome wool contraptions or whatever I guess I'm building.
If nothing else, it does help make everything look nice around the floor and turn it into carpets, or you just do like side colors. Cause unless you got some mods in there, there's only a few different ways to get something like purple in for a wall.
Yeah, I was thinking another fun thing to do would be like a nice, like a wool maze, even a 3-dimensional, like with wool ceilings and stuff, have different colors and then change the colors and stuff in the ceilings and floors. And
time for you to determine how far along you've gotten.
Yeah, something like that.
Oh, not bad. I can dig that.
Yeah. That'd be fun, I think.
Nice little extra project for you.
Yeah, so there's lots more to do. I mean, how many years have I been playing Minecraft? I still have stuff to do in it.
Man, it seems like I'm just starting Minecraft sometimes. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And the other thing I did, Simulationist, I got up 3 times to do little stand-up comedy sets around town in Victoria.
But not like back to back to back. You didn't get up, and then go back down and come back again for like an encore.
Right. Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday is
that would have been quite a delayed encore.
The days that I did stand-up comedy, which is, I mean, it's like a little kind of storytelling session, a little 3-minute time.
Yeah, so. And like some people like Jerry Seinfeld, some of their routines were like a 90-minute sort of thing,
Yeah.
So you had the 3-minute routine for, because you've got to, just say you got to get up there, you got to, figure out a little bit of this, make sure you can find out what gets the audience laughing like right away.
Yeah, well, and I guess at this point, I mean, until the podcast really takes off and makes me famous, I don't think there's too much of, like, I don't have a draw, that's the word draw, to get people to come out to see a show.
Have you tried showing some cleavage?
I try to look my best, honestly.
I have seen the photos. You look pretty darn dapper. I'm not gonna lie.
I try to wear nice clothes on stage, but I don't know how. I might try undoing another couple top buttons. Like I usually leave at least, like I don't wear a tie, but I leave the top button undone. So maybe one or two top buttons.
Give the ladies a little beefcake. Come on, man.
Yeah, I know.
There you go.
But aside from that, I guess what I should do is, once I have that, the other thing you need is posters and all this marketing and like Facebook events and,
you really got to learn how to self-promote a lot in that industry, I've been told.
But through all of these things, we're kind of working on here and there, doing the podcast and doing other things. Hopefully, I'm building up. I don't know, Twitter. I have like 60 followers, so it's
60 more followers than I got on Twitter.
Yeah, I don't know how to.
If I was to get on Twitter,
well, I would follow you. So there'd be.
What a bromance we're showing tonight.
What was I talking? Oh, yeah, stand up. Yeah. At some point I might be able to fill a room up with people who would listen to me try and be funny for 90 minutes.
And next thing you know, bam, you got yourself something on like the CBC television.
Yeah.
Comedy Now, starring Josh Trelevin.
That's what I'm going for. So yeah, a little bit at a time. Not just that, but yeah, stuff of that nature, stuff of like TV specials and stuff. So
ooh,
I think
would it be like a Christmas TV special?
I would do a Christmas TV special.
A Christmas comedy special. Come on, man.
I would do that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would do one every month, like a different holiday, like one for every statutory holiday. It's the Labor Day special.
I could dig that, yeah, man.
What's the nearest holiday to today? I guess the next is Family Day. Valentine's, which is the stat is Family Day.
Yeah. Let's face it, it's really a Valentine.
Is that what you say to Family Day? You hate families?
I don't consider it to be as big a holiday as Valentine's.
Okay.
Valentine's is pretty big. The stores are already changing all their decor for that. They're not changing it for Family Day. They're changing it for Valentine's. We know where the real holiday lies.
But this is what happens, and this is what happened to Christmas, is that it's one holiday before, like it's Saturnalia, and then like a different sort of maybe government, in this case sort of the Roman government converted Christianity, and they're like, okay, you can still have your Saturnalia, but now we have Christmas, which is pretty much at the same time, but it's the 25th instead, and then basically Christmas becomes Saturnalia, kind of goes away, people forget about it and becomes Christmas. I think that's sort of the same attempt. We'll see what happens. I don't know.
I don't know, man. Like fighting, the whole concept of love's a pretty hard battle, and you don't look good fighting it.
Well, but isn't family about love? That's what I'm saying. Family Day can just absorb all of the customs.
Family's about the outcome of love.
Okay.
Because you have loved so much, now you have a family.
No, I like Family Day because what about all the single people? I guess the single people should get dates. I don't know, maybe.
If they liked it, they should have put a ring on it.
Fair enough.
All the single people.
But what I'm saying is Family Day should just be able to absorb all the lovey-dovey stuff of Valentine's Day. But maybe it won't. I don't know. I'm not in charge of culture. What shape would the chocolates be? They can be hearts. What's wrong with that?
Because that's already Valentine's thing. You got to come up with your own shape, man. That's why they got pumpkins for Halloween and Santas and snowmen and all that for the Christmas season.
Yeah, but like that.
What are you gonna do? Like have like a mommy chocolate, daddy chocolate, and little baby chocolates?
Well, Christmas that.
Easter's got the little eggs.
The tree has nothing to do with Jesus.
It doesn't have to.
Christmas took the tree and was like, oh, here, I'll take that tree. So Family Day can just take the heart and say, I'll just take that. That'll be our thing now.
That's how you get an arrow through the heart, man. You anchor Cupid that way.
That's part of, an arrow through the heart. That's fine. That's part of the tradition. And same with Easter. There's Easter, like, eggs and bunnies have nothing to do with, like, Jesus and stuff, but they're like, no,
You're saying Jesus wouldn't like to pet a bunny and eat some eggs?
I'm sure he would, but that's not what, like, Easter was originally, like, that's not the thing. But Easter was like, oh, we'll just take those pagan symbols, and that's just Easter now. So that's what it doesn't. It
doesn't mention anywhere in the Bible, but I do firmly believe Jesus would have loved rabbits. both as like a pet as well as a food source.
Yeah.
Because you properly cook up a rabbit. Oh, that's good stuff.
That's true. How did we get on that topic? Oh, am I gonna do? Yeah, I'm gonna do holiday specials because I like Christmas well enough. Sure, okay. I mean, fine. It's fun. It's a fun holiday. But I like all the other holidays, and I don't like to. I feel bad about discriminating against poor Labor Day and like poor Arbor Day. We don't even have Arbor Day in Canada, but.
But here's the thing. Eventually, as the year goes on, you're gonna have to get around to like Remembrance Day or Veterans Day for the Americans.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna do such a patriotic special.
Yeah, this is gonna be kind of hard to do comedy on such a somber occasion. Now, you really got your work cut out for you on that one. I'm not gonna lie, you're gonna have to figure out a nice narrow path to walk on that.
Yeah, I got lots of time. I got till November.
Okay, fair enough. Just as long as you know. Is there anything else this week for you?
That's all I did. Yeah, that's all I want to talk about. I probably talked too long about what I did, but let's find out what you did.
Added a few more little mods to Minecraft myself. Like I have a file I keep for like, oh, this mod looks interesting. I'll go and I'll examine. Is it really for me?
Yep.
And the big mod I added this week was mods just like I didn't even have in that file. They were so perfect. It's like I have to put this in. Like one was like a floating island. What it would do was it would take part of the terrain when it generates and shift it up into the air, sometimes in a bit of a dome shape, sometimes in a bit of a cone shape, but effectively create like a floating island. And on top of that floating island, they'd put like a one-room area with a monster spawner, and there's like a treasure chest underneath some obsidian, I believe it was. Because, the monster spawner and the chest are all blocked by obsidian, so you can't just go in there, kill everything quickly, and, go on your way out. You're going to have to, like, spend a little bit of time there, put down some lighting, and do your thing. But I added it for two reasons. One, because the images look so spectacular in there. The concept of a floating island. Just imagine yourself adventuring as you're exploring new lands, and there's this floating little island up there that's not one of those crazy Tinker's Construct like slime islands. It's just like the bio, because it leaves a crater behind. It literally lifts up, and like when I did some explorations after putting it in creative mode, like it'll lift up bodies of water too. So you get these wonderful waterfalls pouring down there.
Oh, yeah,
and so it has a very, very beautiful look to it. Also, because it has a chance in desert biomes of giving me... Because it's not a standard monster spawner. It'll spawn like a range of creatures based on what biome it is. And the desert one will spawn like wither skeletons and sometimes even blazes. More of the nether mob sort of thing. Right. And so it's like, hey, I could actually fight, the wither skeletons and get myself the wither skulls to spawn the wither.
Oh, which you haven't done yet.
Which I cannot do because of my slightly busted game.
All right.
So it'd be a nice way of actually being able to do that. And being able to get that nether star could help me out in a lot of the other mods I got going. The other one was the Draconic Evolution, which focuses more on end game sort of things. To basically get anything started in there, you have to go to the end and fight the Ender Dragon. Whereupon it drops like a draconium ore, which actually also is like an ore in the end stone. Although you can find it in the nether and the overworld as well, but very, very rare. So yeah, it's basically an end game sort of material, and it holds half of my solution to how do I store and transmit RF energies. Because I can generate it very nicely, but I can't store it very well. And I can't transmit it very well. So that takes care of it. Because it's a very nice, got 4 little beams shooting at a giant glowing ball of energy that stores it all. It's like, whoa, that's boss. It's like an arc reactor sort of style to it. I could really use that. It looks visual good.
Cool.
That said, the weapons are really high damage and considered a little overpowered. But I don't even know if I'm going to wind up using them, aside from making them just to put them on display. I'm kind of comfortable with the stuff I have right now. It does what I want, and the metallurgy mods I've got will help me out with some other special abilities that you just can't get from high damage, and you can't get from like enchantments. So it's like, okay, I guess I can pick and choose what part of the mod I'm going to wind up using. So I had a lot of fun doing that as I slowly start designing out more and more of what I'm going to be doing for my big old storage extra dimensional space.
Okay.
Other than that, I got a chance to see Dracula Untold this week. Rented it from the library. 12 copies, no waiting list. I don't know why, because it was a great movie. like the cinematography for like the landscapes was as good as anything from Lord of the Rings or the Hobbit series. It was magnificent. The plot was not bad. It was fairly quick paced. I have never seen Vlad Dracul presented in such a positive light.
Oh yeah, is he the hero of the story then?
He is indeed the hero.
Okay.
And this is going to sound a little weird, but he was, at least, like viewed by the locals, and still is considered a hero in Romania, in the Transylvanian Alps.
Oh, okay.
Back in the day, the Turkish Empire was considering taking all of Europe and, putting it to the sword or converting them into, like soldiers for other fights and basically subjugating them.
Sure.
Kind of a dick move. And Vlad Tepes, Dracula, he was the guy who scared them so bad they did not dare try, invading from Turkey, into Europe. He did it in horrible ways. I'm not going to lie. He took the soldiers and he impaled them, such that there was like a forest of 20,000 soldiers impaled.
Ooh.
On like.
This is true history?
True history. So, that's how he got the name Vlad the Impaler.
And I guess, were they Turkish soldiers? Is that the idea?
Yes. So that way when the next Turkish soldiers came by, they saw exactly what horrible fate awaited them.
Right.
A forest of, impaled corpses.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how much this stuff is true. I don't know if it was actually 20,000 people. I don't know if the story about him dining in amongst them, as blood was dripping down everywhere, I don't know how true all that was and how much was scare tactics, but that's exactly what he used. He intimidated an entire armed force hell-bent on conquering another land, saying, no, to get there we'd have to go through this guy, and he's nuts. There's no way we are going this way.
Huh.
And so he readily, embodied the concept of, like, I am a monster, and I will do monstrous things, but I'm on your side, so you don't have anything to fear. Just follow me as I prevent our enemies from taking everything. And that's also what they presented for the view of Dracula in the movie. He was a man who has done horrible things, but for all the best possible reasons. He did horrible things to prevent even more horrible things from happening.
It's weird because, like, if I was the Turkish general or whatever, I mean, I might not attack, like, because for practical reasons, like maybe we can't win. But I don't know if the corpses on spikes in particular would intimidate me. I suppose I would worry about it.
Might not intimidate you, but it'll intimidate all the people that'll be fighting on your half, right? It's like, oof.
Maybe.
Kills the morale. No bonuses to attack and defense there.
Well, I mean, maybe I'd send my guys around the forest.
That's the thing. In order to go around that, there was very, very far out of their way and much better defended. This was going to be their way to effectively sneak in and get the back of, like stab the back of Europe. And it was basically, no, you're going to have to go through, crazy McMonster man here.
Yeah,
Vlad
I suppose, I mean, it's a mountainous region, but then so is Turkey for that matter, so you'd think they'd be used to fighting through, like, in between mountain passes and stuff. So.
Well, they're used to fighting through mountain passes, but not fighting psychos. Like, this guy was like a monster amongst men. And but they tell it for all the right reasons. And so yeah, I've never seen Vlad Dracul presented in such a positive and heroic light, which was a very refreshing change of pace, as opposed to like, oh, I am a noble man, and thus I am entitled to everything, and that's why I should be fit to drink your blood. You're just a filthy little peasant commoner, blah. And it's just like, no, he's doing it for all the right reasons, and everything that went through there, I was rooting for him. Like, I was so happy that they didn't wait till like the final like half hour before like, oh, he becomes a vampire, and then he does his stuff. No, man, pretty early on in the whole thing goes through its paces, and then he's got his vampiric powers as he just kicks enemy ass. It's like rock. Oh.
Okay.
I'm probably gonna wind up watching it again. It's that good. It's gonna be something I'm gonna want to watch a second time before I turn it in. In fact, when I was done, I said to myself, you know what? When the price is right, when I got the spare cash for it, I'm going to have to probably pick this one up to have in my home collection. I liked it that much.
Huh. So, that's interesting.
And I'm cheap, so it's not something I'll say for every movie.
The whole message about an aristocrat, because I think the original story of Dracula had a little bit of that. It was a social commentary on the aristocracy, how they were corrupt.
A parasite upon humanity.
basically they just...
It is very easy to portray them that way, I won't lie.
Yeah, I think that was the idea.
Even if it wasn't intended, it's not hard to read it in that way.
But I guess, there's another way you can read this, is that they're fighting against the bigger evil of, the outsider, I suppose.
In this one here, they showed the Janissaries. Do you know much about them?
Turkish warriors, or a warrior class. Yeah. That
was taken from like child soldiers sort of thing, and then raised to become, fight on the behalf of the Turkish Empire.
And they're one of the first units or military units to use like firearms.
Well, not in this case. I
guess that's
back
a
in
little
this
earlier
case here,
than
it's
that.
1462.
Okay.
Not quite.
It could be, but yeah.
Although cannon fire was
maybe
being used and all that. But
okay.
But no, in this case, they're presented as the child soldiers that were abducted against their will and indoctrinated, and then fighting, against their one-time people, And it's just like showing the monstrous nature of organized military forces in prolonged, like military times. How do you maintain a fighting force when every time you fight you lose at least some of your soldiers?
Okay, yeah.
And so it winds up being that, it's like they go into Wallachia, and it's like, in addition to like your tribute of silver that you owe like the Turkish monarch, we're also going to take 1,000 of your children. And it's like, apparently that's the straw that broke the camel's back, sort of thing. And I won't spoil too much of the actual plot. I mean, it's not too close to actual history, but close enough that you should be able to know the broad strokes.
Well, I know that the Ottoman Empire continued to persist even after that era. So
it persisted all the way up until World War II.
Yeah. World War One.
World War One definitely, but it still held on, and World War II is when finally there was like no traces remained.
Okay.
You couldn't even claim like, we hail back to this era. It's like, no, your buildings do, you don't. World War II is when things really took an end. But World War I was when it was still the Ottoman Empire. But you could say after World War I, it's like, yes, it was, we are still, effectively the modern day incarnation of this ancient empire. No, not after World War II. That was
I guess any legal remnants were gone. Okay, sure.
But yes, so I quite liked it. The use of CGI was done just right.
Okay.
The fangs, not too overly done. Sometimes when they do it, it's like, oh my gosh, like a Smilodon tusk sort of thing coming out. Oh my gosh, look at the size of that. No, but my wife was able to mention, it's like, oh look, I was like, you can see the teeth when he's there. It does become prominent. You do see it a lot more. And my goodness, do I want to see a sequel of this movie? I am sorry I didn't catch it in the theater to add to its box office gross.
Right.
It's just great. I like it, and it's a Universal one. And apparently, what Universal's trying to do is get all their big horror names back up and running as a franchise, and then maybe try and pull like an Avengers sort of thing and have a shared universe with them.
Okay, all right.
And so, like, if that's what they're going with, by golly, I think Marvel might have an actual contender for a shared universe setting of movies.
Is it a little bit like set in the whole universe of the Mummy and the Scorpion King and all that?
Doesn't seem to be. And mind you, they do have a fourth Scorpion King movie coming out. That was one of the coming attractions on there.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know exactly how close they are and what they can wind up using for it, but I would gladly overlook some, how does this, mesh together to actually have the Mummy and Dracula either fighting each other or fighting on the same side against something even worse. Throw in a Frankenstein, throw in a werewolf, bada bing, bada boom.
Yeah. Has there been, do you know if there's been a Frankenstein in
They're constantly trying to work.
Century?
They have, I believe within the last 6 months, tried to do like a Victor Frankenstein movie, which got mediocre reviews.
Okay, so they made it, but, okay.
Yeah. And I know a couple of years ago they did a werewolf movie, but that one didn't get the best reviews either. So they're trying, though. They're trying. So you just gotta keep finding. It's like, okay, you get that good story, you get everything locked in together. Bam, that's where you go, and then you follow up with everything you can. Mm-hmm. And they are in a nice position whereby they can say, okay, this movie didn't get good reviews and wasn't really well done, so we're gonna say it doesn't count. In a couple more years, we'll do another Frankenstein movie. We'll call it, Made Man. Have some sort of mafia angle to it. See if that works. People like it. There we go. That one will count. Mm-hmm. And they'll put it all together. So, knock on wood that Universal will be able to do something like that and actually pull it off. Because I loved this movie. I loved The Mummy back when it came out, so I would love seeing them in a shared universe. So, woo! That's my long and the short of it for that. Now, you and I do have some other little reviews to go for stuff we've seen this week. Which one do you want to start off with?
Oh, things that we watched shows. We watched Rick and Morty, so let's we've now seen the first 3 episodes of Rick and Morty, because it's on Adult Swim here in Canada
once a week.
Well,
technically twice a week, but the one that's on tomorrow was just a repeat of the one that's on tonight.
Yeah, and the next season isn't coming out for at least another year, so
we got time to catch up.
We can catch up with season 4.
So yeah, we've seen 3 episodes of Rick and Morty, which has gotten some nice love on the internet. So what do you think of what you've seen so far?
I liked it. I thought it was super funny. It's really smart, I think. Lots of interesting references.
I'll say smart, not in like the technical thing, not like they show you how to do this sort of stuff. How do you build your own time, portal machine, at home. But it is smart in the way that it lends itself to smooth storytelling where you don't have to question things, how that goes. Mm-hmm. And it's like, yes, I can see that going, yes, okay. And it has the same logic that you and I would have for it. So that's nice. You don't go, oh, I didn't just do that.
Yeah.
So there you go.
And, yeah, I mean, it's a cartoon, so some of it is cartoon logic. It's got a cartoon mad scientist as our protagonist, who knows how to do crazy things like open interdimensional portals and shrink rays and stuff.
Which is pretty darn good, I think. I gotta say, it's a love letter to sci-fi.
Oh, yeah.
The starting music is very heavily influenced by Doctor Who. From what I've seen, there are moments that just smack of the love of like the classic sort of almost retro style sci-fi of Futurama. Yep. And the like on that one. And yet it still has its own pace and it has its own style, so that you can't say it's derivative of either of them. And that's very nice to be able to say.
Right. Well, I've noticed, a lot of similarities between Rick and Morty and Futurama, but they definitely can. I don't know if I can't remember now if Futurama is doing new episodes. But I think
they might be on another hiatus at the moment. Yeah.
I would say they could exist side by side and just be just fine, or sort of in parallel universes, and enjoy both of them.
They're not going to wind up, treading on each other's toes.
Yeah, I don't think so. Even though, some of what you see in Rick and Morty is like this sort of pan-galactic civilization and weird monsters and things, and a lot of gags along those lines of like, oh, this alien eats people, and.
Oh, look, they landed on this alien and just exploded like a bunch of Jell-O. Haha.
Yeah.
But Jell-O with a firecracker in it. Jell-O doesn't normally explode.
Speaking of that, though, yeah, Rick and Morty is more violent than Futurama.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I mean, Futurama, I guess people get shot and killed, right?
I've seen Fry get his arms chopped off. I've seen some nasty accidents, but nothing too gory. Whereas I remember in, the pilot episode, some bug guards get shot, and he's bleeding to death over here, and it actually shows I guess it'd be ichor, not actual blood, right? He's ichoring to death over here.
Well, that's the thing about a human-sized insect probably wouldn't be things like exoskeletons and ichor. It probably is more similar to a human in its internal anatomy than it is to a bug. It just happens to look more like a bug.
Insectile.
Because a bug that was the size of a human couldn't support itself with just an exoskeleton.
According to the Hall's laws of locomotion and isometric sizes, yes, a spider approximately the same weight as you and I would be 50% exoskeleton by volume.
Yeah.
I have researched. I have done this.
Okay, I'm glad you have.
Biologist.
Yeah.
As another bonus, as soon as it tried stepping anywhere, that such a spider would actually shatter under its own weight. The exoskeleton cannot hold weights equal to our own, no matter how big you upsize it.
Yeah, so it would have to be something more along the lines of like a mammal.
A bone exoskeleton sort of thing. It could still be very insectile, but it would have to have homologous body design.
Yeah, like an armadillo.
Yes. So yeah, you could work it that way.
But I guess the difference is Rick and Morty sort of it focuses on the violence in a little different way. It's like it really gives you oh, this creature's suffering, and then you're supposed to laugh at that.
Or it's like, yeah, okay, nice job, hero. You're really heroing it up here, and he's bleeding to death.
Yeah, and
someone gets
Futurama.
wife and kids on the line, he's not going to make it.
I'm not saying Futurama never has that, but it seems to be like Rick and Morty takes that to another level.
When Fry gets his arm snipped off, there's not like blood shooting out like some sort of crazy anime thing.
That's true, yeah.
So
And I suspect Rick and Morty, like, it has a, well, I don't know if they get rated at this point, but if there is like a age rating or whatever.
It's not something I'm going to let my daughter watch.
Yeah, I think Rick and Morty has a higher or stronger parental guidance warning or whatever on it.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's Adult Swim.
Yeah.
By default, it covers under there.
I think do they beep out the swears? I think they beep out the swears, but...
Not really.
Do they not?
Well, they don't say anything, not like a dropping F-bombs here and there.
I think Rick does. And that's, I mean, this character of Rick is a very sort
There's dams and hells, I know that.
Okay, yeah. He's always drinking, so...
Yeah. Well, mind you, if you've gone through the stuff he's done, and at least what I've seen the last 3 episodes, I'd consider drinking too. Just how it goes.
Yeah.
I gotta say though, I'm happy that we waited till the 3rd episode.
Okay.
Because in the first episode, Morty is presented as Rick even says, "You're as dumb as they come." So he's pretty stupid to the point where his parents think he might wind up having like some sort of like brain disorder. He might be handicapped mentally. Whereas from what I've seen in the 2nd and 3rd episodes, he might not be the smartest kid around, but he's not some passive-aggressive, stupid, like blob of like idiot ball. He takes charge. He's doing stuff. He's got his own reasons and motivations, and it might just be because he's a teenager and it's like he's got to impress the gal, but at least he's doing it.
Yeah, Morty's more of a hero in episode 3.
Yes, I was really happy in the one we saw tonight because he really did play the role of like the daring do action hero. And I'm a little burnt out on stupid protagonists, I hate to say.
Right.
The years of Simpsons and Family Guy have just completely dulled my love for an idiot protagonist. A fool protagonist I'm still okay with because they're innocent, and Morty was at the very least, if not smart, he was still very innocent on the concept. So it's not like I was against him on that. But being able to see him be like the action hero, Rick provides the brains. Morty, he's not brawn, but he does provide like the physical action. I'm happy to see that nice divide. It works well.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I don't know if we've seen like a character like a protagonist in a cartoon who's just a guy that isn't really, isn't insanely stupid, but isn't really a super genius or smart or action hero either.
Ash Williams.
Is he?
As described by Bruce Campbell, he's a bad, slow thinker, but a good, quick thinker.
Right.
So when situations go down and he's got to think on his feet, he's actually not bad, but he's not the kind of guy who makes the best life choices when he has like no incentive behind him.
Yeah, like what if they made an action movie with like you or me as the main character? Like what would we're not super stupid, but we're also
Hey man, I'm a biologist. I was
Yeah.
able to tell you, exactly what happens to a spider when you enlarge it to our size.
Okay.
You could conceivably have an issue with like a shrink ray, whereby I solve the issue of like, how are we going to get rid of these giant bugs by just enlarging them to a size where they crush themselves and suffocate on their own book lungs, which don't work under the size conditions that we have on our scale.
Okay, like if we gave you a machine and told you it was a shrink ray and here's the on-off switch.
Interesting note, according to the Hall's laws of locomotion, a creature's size isometrically does not change its top speed. Fun fact, how he helped determine this out was got out on the savannah and he got with a jeep and he just chased animals down with a jeep, determining how fast can they run. And a smaller giraffe, that's an adult, can't run any slower than a big giraffe. So yeah, isometrically, so long as you're the same size, it doesn't affect your top speed.
Okay.
So, if you are, like, say, down to, I don't know, what's a small toy?
A G.I. Joe.
Yeah, okay, there you go. If you're down to G.I. Joe size, you can still run at the same miles per hour that you can run at your current size. There's a giant chasing after you? Well, it doesn't matter. The giant's a human like you. It can't move any faster than you can.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
And, there's also some nice issues about, it, shattering under the, the power square law of muscles. It being too weak to do anything. So you could use like a shrink ray as a very interesting, incapacitating, and not directly, but very lethal offensive weapon. Like, the biggest problem about being down to G.I. Joe size is because of the surface area to body ratio. You could wind up freezing to death in a summer, weather, because your body can't retain the heat. It just that goes out. Your core temperature lowers down. Bam. So, oh no, there's a bear attacking us. What are we going to do with the grizzly bear? We shrink it down. It'll hit itself into like a carnivore lethargy, not into hibernation. They're too big for hibernation. Too many calories, something like 5 million calories to get a bear up to the proper body temperature. It's actually just carnivore lethargy by and large.
Okay.
In which case it'll wind up having to hit carnivore lethargy and just effectively go into sleep and all that before long because it just loses so much heat. Bada bing, bada boom. You give me a shrink ray, I'll do more than just have tiny little couch-sized adventures. I can do some really fun stuff with that. So I don't consider myself a dumb hero. I consider myself a clever hero in such a situation.
Okay.
That said, I don't think even a fictional representative of me would be smart enough mechanically to create the shrink ray.
Right.
But I'd know how to use it. Okay. I would make a dang fine field agent.
Yeah.
There we go.
You're the James Bond, and you're not the Q necessarily.
I don't know. James Bond, depending on which one you watch, he's a little skeezy.
Okay.
But yeah, the Pierce Brosnan Bond.
Okay.
That guy was like 100% class. Whether or not I can live up to 100% class, no, that's another issue. But at least that way, that's an upward role model for me. So yes. Long story short, I'm liking the Rick and Morty. It gets me thinking about so many things because how they represent things. And it's just crazy little things, too.
Yeah.
Shoes, you can walk up surfaces on them, up and down, like it's like gravity's like any which way, but you got to remember to turn them on first. It's like apparently battery powered. You can't just leave that darn thing on all the time.
Yeah. Well, another funny thing, I guess this is a bit of a spoiler, but there's a technological solution for everything, even dumbness. Like, in theory, like if you were dumb, you can just take a pill and become smart. Although that particular pill had some other side effects. But yeah, Morty at the end of it, he gets super genius abilities from these seeds that absorb into his body. And so that's...
See, that's the thing, though. Because it was never described exactly why Rick wanted the seeds for his science, just saying it would help him out a whole lot.
Oh, yeah.
It makes you wonder, was he trying to aim to find some way to get that side effect to be the effect? Was he looking for like a brain pill to help incredibly boost it? Was he going for something else? Because one of the other side effects was effectively, like loss of most motor control for up to 72 hours. So like, forget the sleeping gas, which, by the way, doesn't actually exist in real life. That was asked about in Waco, Texas. Janet Reno's there. It's like, can't we just throw like a bunch of sleeping gas through there, knock them all out, and go in and just like handcuff them? No, sleeping gas doesn't actually exist. And it's kind of hard to do some narco jets sort of things, because like if you overdose a person, they die. But it looks like, with those seeds there, you could really knock somebody's, motor system out without killing them. And like what Morty had, dissolving into a system would have been a pretty darn decent amount. So like maybe he's just working up a non-lethal, take him out option. Who knows? Not said. Maybe it'll come up in a future episode.
Yeah, it might. I don't know. He's got a lot of crazy, weird. Yeah.
He's got a lot of irons in the fire.
Oh, but the other in episode 2 though, he had an intelligence boosting thing for the dog. Remember?
He built that. He can build it any time. So maybe that was like the side effect. He wanted to see like what causes this hyperintelligence. How do you create the hyperintelligence? Now that he knows how to create the hyperintelligence, just stimulate these parts of the brain. I have a little machine I can toss over your head that'll do that. Maybe that's what he did between episodes 1 and 2.
Maybe, yeah, that's a good theory.
There you go, man. And that's the thing, is it lends itself, it gives you just enough information to have some fun with the concepts, and then leaves enough untold so that you can create these wonderful theories of overarching, interconnectedness between the episodes.
Yeah.
I'm digging it. I'm quite digging it myself.
All right. And the other show we watched this week is X-Files is back.
Yes.
Did you talk about that?
Talk about good timing for you. I forgot to mention to you that X-Files was coming. You should, coming on, like just before the podcast. You should come by a little early. Yeah. And lo and behold, sports goes on and on and
sports.
on. Good news. I believe the Florida Panthers are going all the way to the Cup this year now. But it was like a 30
Super
point.
Cup?
I don't know. Whatever cup that is that the Panthers are a part of, they're in. I was not paying a lot of attention. All I remember is just, like, listening to, like, okay, you're going in here, what do you think about this? And then, like, the guy's talking. Oh, okay, go over here, talk to this other guy. And the other guy's talking. Okay, let's go over to these 5 commentators to see what they say. And they're all talking. It's like, you are saying nothing of value.
Give me my X-Files.
And it's not just because I wanted to watch X-Files and, like, they wound up going, like you managed to make it in. Like, you only missed, like maybe a minute of, like, the movie, the first episode there. So.
Right.
But it's just like, oh my God, like, you guys are just talking about, like, oh my God, I can't believe this, and this person's probably going to go for MVP. Just a lot of speculation, just a lot of what you thought happened here. It's like, you have no concrete information. You are worse news than stuff like Fox and CNN when they're doing, like, they're trying to bust out the coverage of something's live and happening right now. You're as bad as them for just speculative knowledge, man. Just like, ooh, I hate that kind of, like that sort of talk. It's, ugh.
Well, I don't know when the actual Super Cup happens, but hopefully it doesn't, like, overwrite. I don't know if it's next week or the week after.
I had enough time to go over to Twitter and see how everyone was talking about it, and everyone was, hating on just, like, get over it. No one wants to see your post-game review.
Oh, yeah.
If they watched the game, they don't need the post-game review, and if they didn't catch the game, they probably didn't like it enough to watch a post-game review.
Yeah.
All I know is State Farm has lost a little in my eyes because it was their post-game review. They're sponsoring.
Right.
State Farm.
Well, I mean, maybe I guess they paid good money to have that little...
Well, they paid money, but I don't want to say it was good money. Because it's money that actively interfered with the starting of Season 10 of The X-Files.
As in, they paid a significant amount of their own money to have their name put on the show, on the broadcast waves. And, yeah, I suppose sponsors don't want to skip it. Although I guess they're eating into other sponsors' time, but maybe the other sponsors didn't pay as much because it's just regular rerun programming, except for because they ran the whole X-Files.
Yes,
plus all the commercials.
It looked like they cut out at least 1 or 2 commercials in there because the first bit was a really long intro bit, and then they wound up taking all but like the last couple of minutes of Mike and Molly that was supposed to be on there. There's like 8 minutes remaining on that one. So
and now if that was a rerun, then commercials probably aren't as expensive, so they probably could have afforded to cut a few of the other sponsors, give them their money. I don't know how that works. Do they give sponsors money back if they don't run their commercial or whatever? But they probably have a contract for a long period, so maybe they can make it up in another show.
Episodes on so many parts of the time,
Yeah.
But once it did start, thank goodness. Well, one, it's nice to see that the characters they brought back have aged so well.
Yeah, well, they had, they had makeup, and they knew they were doing the show, so they probably had to work out a little bit and get ready, get their bodies back in shape. Some people, when they age,
they really do change their looks.
Yeah.
Although I gotta say, with Gillian Anderson, I don't think it was a negative. Like, I think she looks every bit as beautiful as she did, back in, the end of the 90s, early 2000s.
Okay, yeah.
Mulder. He was looking a little rough. Looked like he needed a shave. He wasn't the young man.
Well, part of that was on purpose. Yeah. They were trying to show that the character is sort of, I don't know if the character's retired, but yeah, that's the idea. Is he's not in the middle of it.
So
anymore.
But yeah, I mean, he's still looking debonair and handsome as ever. Because sometimes when a man ages, he loses his looks. So I'm not gonna lie.
Well, didn't you always find that though? I mean, David Cummings, he is a good-looking guy, but also he has a little bit of a schlubby look to him. Don't you ever think?
I'll say it's a low-energy look to him.
Yeah, a sleepy look?
A sleepy look, somewhat, like reserved sort of thing. He's not the kind of guy, like, if someone throws, like a surprise birthday for him, he's going to jump up and freak out about it. He seems like the kind of guy, he might raise the eyebrows and might, let a little, note a surprise, but he's not going to freak out. He seems very low energy.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I like about him.
Yeah.
It's nice to see that guy that doesn't overreact to things. He's just like, oh, okay, yeah. But the low energy plus, being interested in something gives a very, very interesting intensity on like when his portrayal. Like when he gets into his Fox zone and he went in the Mulder zone. And he's big on his conspiracy theories. He he's very intense, and
well,
it plays quite well.
His voice gets kind of low, and it does get very like steady and monotone, but he sounds very earnest when he says.
It's like you can almost hear like the thoughts as they're rocketing around as he's forming up the theories as it's all coming out, man. It's like, oh yeah,
it's kind of fun. Yeah, you get it's not a heightening, but it is he gets serious, right?
Yeah,
he's like, now I'm getting serious, talking about the things that are happening.
So about this, they brought in this act here, so I have to do this and that like that, but it's still the low energy, and I think no one does it quite like him. So, good casting back in 1992-93 to get him in there, eh?
Yeah, and I saw some of the original X-Files, but I don't think I really watched them. I think I see them in a different way now, and they threw in a lot more current events, at least I felt in this first episode, than I remember being a part of the original X-Files. I don't know.
Well, yeah, mind you, like the original X-Files ended not too long after 9/11. And that's when things started really changing for the big things that would make a conspiracy not get very scared.
Yeah, well, and they mentioned in this show, one of the lines of dialogue that they said is everything changed after 9/11 and the Patriot Act and everything like that. I feel like that was also a little bit of a nod to the fact that the original X-Files show petered out in 2002, so there might have been something to that change in
people
culture
just,
there too.
You know, like they were paranoid about like what's really going on,
yeah.
Not really about like what's going on, you know, in this fictional setting.
So it's a reference both to the real world and to their own TV reality of we like our TV show got thrown off by September 11th, 2001. So
I still say Josie and the Pussycats would have wound up doing a lot better in the theaters if it didn't come out shortly after 9/11 when nobody was really wanting a nice, you know, high energy, you know, girl rock movie.
Yeah.
It changed a lot of things. I think if 9/11 hadn't happened, at least from the entertainment movie perspective, things would have gone a lot differently for movies and television.
And I think...
Mind you, that's small, you know, piddling compared to what happened, you know, like for how things changed. On that big scale, things really did change.
Yeah, like there's sort of the government and what powers the government now has, and this is a theme of this first episode too of X-Files, is they're saying the government took a whole bunch of power with the Patriot Act and a couple of Middle Eastern wars and all of these other things, police, militarization of the police,
yes,
and all this stuff. So it's interesting,
I won't lie. A lot of the stuff they did was a lot more classic back in the days. Like, if they're referring to like events, it'd be like the Cold War, which I suppose, you know, technically only ended about 4 years earlier. Because I mean, when the Berlin Wall went down in '89, would be effectively the end of the Cold War, right? So it would have been only about a 4-year thing. So it's actually not too far off. But you know, like Soviet experiments back during the Cold War, they tended to mean like the 70s, not like, you know, like 5 years ago.
Yeah. What did you think of Joel McHale? I guess you're not too familiar with him. You might have seen him on The Soup or Community. He was the conspiracy television host guy.
I liked him, and he played himself very well as to whether or not I should know, like I can trust this guy or he's in league with them.
Right. I felt like Mulder and Scully trusted him too easily. They've just basically invited him into this inner circle of them, you know, chatting about all these conspiracies and stuff. They didn't really seem to vet him too much. They asked
he had like some background vetting. I mean, he had a thing up there, so it was implied they had watched like his stuff, you know, and it's like, okay, he's doesn't seem like he's really crazy. It seems like he's legitimately interested in it. But they didn't want to have to show all that because dude, you only got an hour. So, you know, like, they reference this, like, you know, like, I watched your stuff. Like, why am I even watching his stuff there, you know?
The other thing I thought was he seemed very much more lucid than I would expect, like, a TV host to be. And I think that might be just because it's dialogue that's written.
Well, I think, you know, from what I saw, his stuff was primarily online. So he was doing, like, most of his work, you know, like, by himself, at least for a portion of it.
Okay.
So he'd have to have, you know, like a commanding knowledge of what's going on with this, so that way he can personally sort out the crazies from the people who, you know, like at least think they've got something.
Yeah.
Then you got people that just want attention. It's like they'll make up any story.
Because at one point in the show, they specifically compared him to Bill O'Reilly, and he's like, he's all insulted. He's like, you can't compare me to Bill O'Reilly knows nothing. And I get the feeling about Bill O'Reilly that's basically true. Like in life in general, he would be talking to him. You wouldn't get the sense that he knows a lot of. I mean, he knows stuff, but he's not like this knowing all the ins and outs of the conspiracy. But I think a better comparison would be something like Alex Jones. Again, also like off his rocker and crazy and stuff. But every once in a while, if you listen to an interview, he has his own show and stuff. But if you listen to Alex Jones for a little while, he will get on a track that's very much conspiracy minded, but it's also like it's points like the militarization of the police and the Patriot Act and stuff like that actually does align with sort of reality. So he does know a few things. So I felt that I didn't know why they didn't actually specifically mention Alex Jones.
I think they may have gone Bill O'Reilly simply because that way you get the best potential coverage. Because Bill O'Reilly, I mean, if it wasn't for Bill O'Reilly, you wouldn't have Stephen Colbert as like a concept character, not the actual Stephen Colbert person, but the character from the Stephen Colbert Report. He was just so loud and so out there. Everybody, whether or not you even watched him, would know about him.
I suppose, yeah. It's
and I won't lie,
audience.
Fox does have a habit of being very good at making fun of itself. The Simpsons making fun of Fox and Fox News and all that stuff is really big. But yeah, you can carry they give you a lot more leeway than most other stations would wind up giving.
That's interesting. I wonder if the Bill O'Reilly reference might have been a sort of on some level intended as a plug for the Bill O'Reilly show.
I don't think he's doing a show anymore. Well, he's still out there.
He's not on Fox News anymore?
I think he's still one of the official talking heads, but I don't know if he's got his own show anymore.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I'll have to look that up and find out if there's a...
But yeah, it's just like a Fox to Fox network nod sort of thing.
Right. That was on Fox. Is that we watched it on?
We watched it on CTV.
Oh yeah,
but
Canada.
It's all done through the Fox. Produces.
And in America, it's Fox. Yeah. Okay.
Although it was filmed over in Vancouver. So back to Vancouver. Woo!
Cool. Oh, did you find out if this new one is?
Yes,
in Vancouver?
the current series was filmed in Vancouver, same as the first 5 seasons of the original series.
Yeah.
Hooray!
Yeah, and I was saying like the Nevada desert scenes look to me like Kamloops. So, but who knows?
Well, maybe for that they did do it there, but apparently most of the stuff happens in nice lush areas, and you got to go to Vancouver for that. You can't do that in Los Angeles.
Yeah. Where does Mulder and Scully, do they live in Washington, D.C.? Is that where they live?
I'd have to check where they were located, but historically it was outside of the Washington, D.C. area.
That would make sense, because all that government stuff. And,
that's where the X-Files, where the FBI headquarters, not the headquarters, but one of their headquarters was.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't an FBI building where the X-Files was, but I don't think at the start Dana Scully was in the same area. I think she'd gone on to other stuff in other places.
Yeah.
So, what I liked, I guess I won't try and spoil anything here, just in case you guys haven't seen it. You're waiting to catch it on your local streaming system of choice.
Okay.
But I like how they took and they added another layer. And that's great on conspiracy theories. Everything you knew, that was just the cover story. Now you're like, this is the layer we unpeel, and this is season 10. This is the fresh layer, like an onion,
Yeah. And the other thing about layering it is you have to be careful because you don't want to, when you saying, okay, everything is new and fresh, like this is a different idea, you don't want to say everything that you thought you knew is wrong. You want to say everything that you thought you knew now has a different meaning, a deeper meaning. So
it was really this instead. Yeah. You just didn't see the bigger picture. And so
that's the fun way to do it.
It does not invalidate what you saw.
Yeah.
It colors it. It's like adding a dye to it.
Yeah, and that's so perfect for a conspiracy show like that. Is it circles within circles.
Well, if you read the GURPS Illuminati book, and by the way, I recommend everybody read it. It's a fantastically good read. It's one of the things they say for a conspiracy-themed campaign: layers, 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 and who controls what, and it just keeps on going back and back and back. And the further you dig, the further you realize you've barely begun to dig.
It's really cool, yeah.
So I do dig that. And I guess, spoiler, the cigarette smoking man's back. CGB Spender. Woo!
Well, I don't know. He doesn't do anything. He just sort of shows up and answers the phone.
He says more than Mark Hamill does.
He says what? He says, like, hello? Yes. Okay. Now I'm aware of that, and I am going to be a part of this story, too. Goodbye.
Well, you could hardly seem to tell it without him, I would seem.
No, but the thing is, his scene in this episode is just, there he is. Okay. He doesn't actually do anything. So,
well, he starts things rolling again. I guess, like, against them. He's...
Yeah, I guess we know that he's probably going to do something, so...
Well, I mean, like, for those who have seen at least one of the movies, I mean, he did get, like, hit with a sort of air-to-surface missile from, like, an Apache helicopter.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, but that's okay. He got better. I mean, the cancer got out of him that way. Apparently, all it killed was cancer.
Oh, okay.
Woo! But it's nice to see him back in there, because, like, I'd be okay with a new entity and all that sort of thing for, to be the big bad that's, fighting against, Mulder and Scully and all that. But it's nice to have the classic, smoking man back. Because for the longest time, that is who he was, the cigarette smoking man. I mean, heck, it's even referenced in one of the Bare Naked Ladies songs. I hope the smoking man's in this one, yeah.
Now, here's another question, like, that I don't really remember, but maybe you remember about the original series. The show, this episode, opens with a UFO, like, definitely a UFO flying in and crashing, and, like, that's definitely a UFO. Like, there's no question. I mean, I guess maybe it might be a government UFO or whatever, but...
Government spaceship.
We find out in this episode, at least as far as we know in this episode, that, that's definitely alien.
Extraterrestrial in origin.
Now, the original in the X-Files, like season 1, 2 through 9, is that explicit about, like, this is definitely aliens, or were they a little bit more
It got
coy?
much more, but by and large, I mean, aliens were there, like, not like, like Mulder, like, starts, like, high-fiving aliens, like aliens in the first episode or anything like that. But yeah, there was a lot involving there, and this is definitely like an alien spaceship here, and this was that there.
Yeah.
So it's not like they've brought out just from nowhere, like, you've never seen an alien spaceship before, but this is one here.
Okay.
That said, the scene, I guess this will be a bit of a spoiler, where like Mulder winds up encountering, the the alien craft, or the reverse engineered alien craft. And he's able to touch it and all that. The fact that it was just so early on in the episode, and he was able to actually, interact with it rather than just seeing it and not being able to get any secondhand, evidence from it. Like, I touched it, so what does it feel like? And it was just I saw like the blurry thing in the sky.
Right.
That was a bit of a different pace than what you usually see, at least like that point in both the season as well as the progression throughout the episode.
Okay.
Because it usually winds up being like a third act. So, and then the UFO's there. Da 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 da.
Although it did occur to me, like, if it was an elaborate hoax somehow, like, it wouldn't be that hard to build. Like Mulder, after Mulder sees it, he's like, I'm definitely convinced that's or I don't know, it wasn't an alien craft, it was based on alien technology, right?
Reverse engineered, yeah.
Yeah, so it was an Earth plane with alien 0-point energy.
Xenotech, yeah.
But he's like, I definitely believe that we have this now. Whereas, basically, it would have been easy enough to build, a replica and, like, just hang it on strings or something.
Well, you do some maglev
to
stuff,
do to make it levitate. And you could convince him. And I don't know how they would make it disappear, but I imagine there's probably a way to do that.
There are tricks for that. Nothing as good as what was seen, but there are tricks for that.
I guess,
that said, Mulder has always had a weakness for believing, because he wants to believe.
Right.
So, like, this is some evidence. Oh my gosh, there's some evidence now. I can finally believe. My goodness,
Yeah, but I suppose, from what we saw on camera, I tend to believe too that that we're meant to believe that that's definitely they've got that craft, and it's got superpowers of some kind. Although we never see it fly.
Well, we saw it hover. It's like flying, just without speed behind it.
I guess, yeah.
One thing I did find weird was when the government cracks down, because the government always winds up cracking down. And so, like, maybe not the government itself, but when they crack down, let's use they. When they crack down, You get a scene where you got like the like army kind of like mercenaries come in, jackboot thugs, and now we bomb everything and away we go. It's like, yeah, okay, that's not bad. Very good for a scaring factor. You scared the people that you wound up blowing up. But a few drones probably could have taken care of that just as well. Nobody would have seen a single human being. And like, what good is intimidating a person if you're just going to wind up blowing them up? Like, are they going to get the pearly gates and spread your rep better that way?
Yeah, that's true. And I think probably as this series progresses, we probably will see more drone-like technology.
I would be very disappointed if like drones were not used at all at some point throughout this season.
Yeah.
I mean, there are big new technology that is causing a lot of concerns.
And I like that too, because that's another thing. Well, I mean, I will like that if they bring it in, because in the original X-Files series, drones were not even on the. Well, I mean, probably in some government.
Yeah, they were working on them.
They were working on it. But yeah, nowadays we have drones.
Nowadays, you can go online, you can order a quadcopter, put a small RC camera on there, and film wherever the heck you're going, and get yourself into some very questionable legal avenues that way.
Yeah. I mean, I actually, now that I'm thinking of it, I'm wondering what sort of technology the government has that
they're not letting us know.
Yeah, where are they now? If they're like, what we see in the sky now is 20 years old, they're testing it. I don't know if 20 years, but whatever. What do they have now?
I am hoping, fingers crossed, for absolutely no proof on this, just completely, what I kind of hope that they're working on is, like little like spider drones. Like, you think it's just a spider. Like
climbing?
They can climb, up walls upside down. It's the size of a small spider. Yeah. A good powered camera in there to watch. Stealth tech at the highest level, man.
I remember seeing a video too. I can't remember if I think another podcast referenced it, but somebody built like a shell, not a shell, but like a shell of little sticks. Like, what do you call them? Like a
geodesic dome.
Yeah, geodesic dome that fits around a typical drone with rotors and stuff, and that makes that drone can now fly into caves and stuff, and if it hits a wall, it's protected because it's got this shell.
Which is weird, because I was thinking of
the
one where they put like the geodesic dome over top of it, and then they put a sheet over top of that, and then they wound up scaring people with like a flying ghost coming out at them. So we took things in different directions.
Although if the sheet might actually block airflow.
Apparently they managed to make it work somehow. I remember seeing it.
Yeah. Okay.
It wasn't for very long. All I had to do was like pop out and kind of fly at somebody for them to realize, oh my gosh. And that's the thing. Like from what I've seen for like tricks people have done, I've seen people like dress up as a dinosaur, like a well, I won't say velociraptor. They're too small. Something more towards like a small T-Rex sort of size. And wind up just like having that with like some nice hydraulic things. So that all you could really see was like if you check their legs, that you realize that there's person legs there, not proper raptorial legs. Mm-hmm. And they just like wind up scaring the heck out of people. It's like, come around the corner, rah, 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 as the dinosaur comes chasing after them.
I've seen those videos.
Yeah, and that's fun. And that's the thing, like that wasn't really possible. Like back in like 1993, like that was just not. You'd have to be really pro to have the budget to do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And now it's something you can play as a prank. It's just so there for the technology. It's so cheap. So I wouldn't mind seeing like the monster of the week actually wind up being something like that. Like, oh yeah, it's like quadcopters and people in like outfits, like some sort of crazy Scooby-Doo mystery. Mm. Now, of course, this is X-Files. The chances are they'll have like a gun or two on them, maybe a small bomb with like the drone. Yeah. But still, you could actually have that, and so it wouldn't have to be the monster of the week. It's actually some sort of supernatural monster. It's like legitimate, like new technologies. Yeah. You couldn't get away with, in 93 to 2002. So, so much potential going on there. Oh yeah, and I guess spoiler alert, they got Skinner back in. Woo! The one guy who could try and keep Mulder in line without seeming to be like the biggest like jerk off on the planet.
Yeah,
he was like a graphite rod to Mulder's like uranium core. When Mulder's going too hot, he helps cool things down.
Okay.
He's control to Mulder, to make sure he doesn't go overload. So that's nice to see, because I always found it to be a really nice dynamic between them. It's good to see that they're going to be bringing that back, at least in some degree. So, hooray!
Do you think it's going to last? Do you think?
Well, mind you, I mean, like both Anderson and Duchovny are established actors. They got other stuff to do, so I don't know if they'll wind up doing like a season 11 right away after.
Yeah.
But I very much hope they put it on like like a front burner sort of thing. It's like, okay, this is my other new project. Like we're going back to the X-Files. We can get like a season 11 out here. There's a lot of good momentum going on. And don't forget, the social media stuff is so much better now than it was even back in like 2001, 2002. So they can interact and get these big fan bases and really get them with a good high energy to help keep it supported.
I guess because I've seen other shows like Community comes to mind. Joel McHale shows up in this new X-Files. We don't know how much more of him we're going to see, but possibly.
I'm going to say, no proof on this again, no proof. I'm going to say at some point we're going to wind up seeing him with a bullet in his head.
Yeah, sure.
He is not a main protagonist, and he is in the conspiracy notion and trying to spread it to the world. So I'm going to bet that's going to wind up his fate. That's my prediction.
Yeah, or maybe he goes crazy or something.
Or maybe first crazy, then shot.
Okay, yeah, or shoots himself or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, the problem that they had with, for example, Community, maybe Community didn't have quite high enough ratings, but is that it was an ensemble cast, and they would have had to get every single cast member, all of whom
sign on every time.
Yeah, many of whom have gone on to do movies and other projects. So they're
apparently one of them's working in the X-Files now. It's going to be hard to get
exactly. Well, I mean, Joel McHale, he does The Soup. He's been in other shows, other stuff. So yeah, he's a big star. Don Glover is
I keep thinking
a rapper.
Danny Glover whenever you say
yeah, he's like his nephew, I think. I think they're related. I'm not sure. That would be, yeah.
Is he your replacement? Did Danny Glover get too old for this?
But yeah, he's a movie star and a big rapper. He does he tours doing shows, like rap shows, and
very nice. Very nice. It's nice to see that they've got a life besides just that one note that they're doing, right?
Yeah, and so the fact is, when you want to bring the show back, each of those, they can get up to 10 times as much money for doing a similar job. So can you
It's got to be a project of love to get them in.
Yeah, love, or somebody's got to love it, basically. Somebody's got to somehow finance it, or fans have to love it enough, or whatever.
So you could not do this, but then again, I mean, what are your fans going to say when they not realize you didn't go back to the project that they got their love for you from?
Whereas I imagine with X-Files, it's basically two main characters. There are other characters, but you can sort of do this. You could do the show without Skinner.
You could do it without Skinner. It's better with him.
Yeah,
thankfully, but yeah, you could do without.
So you basically are really only counting on Duchovny and Anderson, yeah. Those two. So you only have to, if you're convincing them to take less money, hopefully they didn't take too much less money. But
I have been told there was an issue with Anderson not getting the same amount of money and her having to fight tooth and nail to get the same amount of money as Duchovny.
Okay, yeah. So there's a bit of that. Which is always, I don't know,
a bit of an old boys' school, ladies not getting paid the same amount thing, which is just ridiculous.
Yeah. Although, like this. Whose story do you think this first episode was more of? Do you think it was Mulder's story or Scully's story?
I think it was actually a very even split, because, I mean, it is about conspiracies, so that says Mulder. Yeah. And he gets back into, the swing of things with his crazy conspiracies. But Anderson, she was playing, a lady, who had, she was with this, she's gone on to other things, and you could see, in her acting portrayal with Scully there, that she was this is mentally fatiguing for her. This is almost like getting into an abusive relationship, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so it wound up, I really saw some great acting with her, just the fatigue of getting back into this dysfunctional style, and so you could very much say it's about her, a lady, slipping backwards, for the sake of an old friend and lover, and just her, she's trying to maintain her sanity because she's got a career beyond this, man. She's helping save kids' lives. Woo!
Yeah.
She is a mother. She just have a kid,
She has a kid somewhere. We never saw that in this episode.
The kid was not featured. I would have to double check to see whether or not she still actually has custody.
Okay.
But dude, if I was part of the X-Files, and then I retired, and I had my daughter. There's no way I would bring my daughter towards like, oh, you know, like, oh, she really kind of likes to see where Dad works, so I'm gonna take her to the X-Files with Daddy. Like, no, that's horrible parenting.
Because my feeling of it, and I could be wrong, and I could be looking at it like through a patriarchal view, but I felt like it was more Mulder's story than Scully's story. I felt like Mulder was the guy doing stuff, and Scully was either an obstacle or being dragged along or, you know, whatever.
That does kind of define the relationship throughout most of the original series.
And maybe that's maybe that's true of the whole series.
So it doesn't hurt to start at least that way. You know, like, okay, yeah, she winds up being how dare she naysay my conspiracy theories with her crazy logics and evidence. But it is nice to go back and you want to get that familiar beat going, and then you do the variations on it, sort of thing.
Yeah, and I suppose, I mean, the X-Files in as a whole could probably be described as the story of their relationship.
Which, is, I think, a very nice apt way of doing it.
It's not that it's the story of this hero Mulder, it's the story of these two people who kind of work together and
wind up doing better with each other than apart.
Yeah.
Like, Mulder is so much better when, you know, like, Scully's there to help rein him in and keep him from, like, flying off the handle about every crazy theory.
Yeah, well, is that the case, though? Does Scully make Mulder better? And
she keeps him grounded, so that way he's not, like, just, like, chasing after, you know, like, nothings.
And does Mulder make Scully better?
He gets her to believe. Okay. He enlightens her soul as she makes sure that he keeps his mind. So they play well. At least that's the way I've always interpreted it. You know, I hope that's the right way. That said, I did not see any of Agent Daggett.
Right, yeah.
Let's see. You might remember him as the T-1000 from the Terminator series.
Oh, that guy.
Yes. When David Duchovny left the X-Files back in the original series, he wound up taking up the role. And when Anderson left for a while too, there was another agent to take up the role there. And I would like to see what happened with those agents.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Huh.
Yeah, I quite liked them. I thought they had a good rapport back and forth together. And I'd like to see them come in too, at least at some point in the series. And I do have a special, love. They had a person who was a member of the FBI that wound up getting and digging the X-Files, and she wound up reading like all of Mulder's stuff, and she got transitioned over to try and help, and then she wound up getting blinded and realized actually, no, being out on these things is horrible and sucks. Yeah. And she was effectively like a fan. Like the fan character ascended in, like, oh boy, what if you got to be like a member of the X-Files? And I'd like to see what happened with her. You know, if she's gone on to better stuff, or is she doing her own thing? And is she still writing novels about conspiracy theories? I want to see more about this character again. Mind you, it's been so long, I can't even remember her name, but I can remember the role she had. And I'd like to see her. I dug her, man. Thumbs up.
Okay. That might be another topic for another time, but have we ever done a podcast about sort of passing the torch and sort of replacing your main characters with another?
No, and I think we'll have to put a pin in that one for maybe next time, because I gotta say, there was a time I was hoping for the X-Files to be like, okay, now when these actors want to go and do other things, you bring someone else in, and that way you help keep the series fresh with your fresh faces, and that way things don't get too bogged down as you're able to tell new stories.
Yeah, and I wonder if, how many...
the ratings weren't quite there for that.
Well, that seems to happen, that for some reason shows seem to be important for people to have those original characters.
I gotta say, the Dukes of Hazzard did not do so good when they lost, the original Dukes.
Yeah, and I was watching the Mythbusters. I think the Mythbusters in their final season now, but towards the end they decided to cut out the second team.
Yeah, Tori Grant and Amy.
Which, I mean, I liked those guys, and I got to know them better and liked them, but I think there was something about, audiences really connected more with sort of your core two, your core pair that had been there all along, sort of, and that was your formula.
Well, yeah, I mean, the energies between the two play off very well for Savage and Heinemann.
Yeah, I guess, it's...
In a similar way to how Mulder and Scully play off.
Do you think so?
Well, you see, Adam Savage has got the high energy sort of thing. And
Is Adam the Mulder?
Adam is indeed the Mulder, where he's got the high energy and he's got the ideas, whereas Heinemann is very much like the Scully. He's very, okay, we got to keep this simple, we got to keep this basic, and we got to find a way to make sure we can prove this simply. We don't have to go like all crazy and go all out. No, man, I want flying stuff, I want explosion. And so they wind up playing, like the high, the yin and yang sort of styles together. And maybe that's just a formula that works. And if you add like the junior crew in with Tori, Grant, and Amy, it's like, oh, what's this other thing? We already got a yin and yang. What do we need like the other ones for?
Now, out of you and me, are you Mulder?
Well, I do have a very big love for conspiracy theories, and I have brought them up more.
I think you might be the Mulder.
Oh, you're my
might be
Scully.
Dang,
I can be. I don't know, man. If I'm going to be a Mulder, I got to grow a little bit of a 5 o'clock shadow, and I got to do a little bit more exercise. Mulder gets a lot of cardio and running around after crazy things.
I don't feel confident or smart enough to be the Scully or the Jamie Heineman. Maybe I'm the...
You have influenced my thought patterns, though, in previous times.
I'm the Tory.
Based on a much more subdued attitude. I remember, this is going way back to some of our earliest podcasts. We were talking about, like, cheating in role-playing games.
Oh, yeah.
And you were saying, like, really, the only person you're cheating is yourself at that. And out of you're cheating yourself out of like a good fun role playing experience and the challenge of it. So who are you really hurting? And that's actually influenced and changed my thoughts as to like what was like to be cheating or like modding up a game or changing stuff up. And so your very logical style of asking it's wrong to cheat, and like, well, why is it so wrong? Very Scullerian of you, I'll say. So yes, if we establish you as our Scully.
Okay, well, good. Should we wrap it up with social media?
Yes. How can people get a hold of us? If they always thought that I was a Scully and you were the Mulder, let us know. Give us reasons why, man.
Sure. Facebook.com/The Simulationist. You can type in comments that appear on the left-hand side of our Facebook page. And you can like the page, and you can, what else?
There's always little comments underneath each podcast if you want to say something.
You can share it on your own page. That's helpful because then it's not you're not spamming your family or friends necessarily with it, but if you do share it on your own page, then some of your family and friends who might happen to be interested in what we do might get to see it. So that's an easy
part
way.
of your gaming group, and all that was, I think it might be worthwhile. If they're not sold on the DMs Guild, if they never got a chance to, if they were on the fence about the X-Files, send it over to them, man. Let them know.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's Facebook. YouTube.com/The Simulationist. Our YouTube page, it's just the audio files with a little static image on there. Nothing special, but it is another way to consume the podcast if you need to. It's also another way to get a hold of us. You can comment on the YouTube videos, and I will see those also. TheSimulationist@gmail.com is our email address. That's TheSimulationist@gmail.com.
All one word, no underscore. Or, if you want, you can tweet at Josh.
At SpaceBoot1.
That's the numeral 1, not O-N-E.
That's right, SpaceBoot numeral 1. Tweet at me or follow me on Twitter or all of those other things.
How about you tweet with him, not at him? It seems much more like a beneficial dialogue to tweet with rather than tweet at.
Except there's no, with... That'd be fun. I want to invent that. A W with a circle around it for with.
There you go.
Or W with a square. I don't know. What do you think? W with
I don't know. See, the A is itself naturally round, so it lends itself to the circle around there.
Yeah.
So the W is very angular, so you'd have to make it part of a pyramid, sort of like a triangle.
The W pyramid with an I in it.
Well, Illuminati confirmed.
Let's see, what did I miss? If you're not already listening on iTunes, you can subscribe to this show on iTunes and write us reviews and give us stars and all those fun things. We're also on Stitcher. You can thumbs up us on Stitcher, make us your favorites, add us to playlists, things like that. And any other podcatcher, I'm not sure what else we're on. RPGpodcast.com is another place you can find us. And any message board that you happen to be on, if the topic comes up of the X-Files, for example, or anything else, go ahead and give us a little shout out when you happen to be talking with other geeks and stuff. In real life, just also one more time plug for Roll for Initiative. Come on by to see us in person.
Fun times had by all.
You can look me up also on comedy in Victoria. Find out if I'm doing stand-up comedy and come out and see me there too. Support me.
Or, go out and see a lot of comedians, one of which happens to be Josh.
That's true. Yeah, Victoria has a wonderful live comedy scene and live and improv and local theater and stuff that you should definitely check out if you happen to be in Victoria.
We got art coming out the wazoo around here, man.
We certainly do. And one more thing, we have a Patreon account which you can contribute to if you feel like we've added value to your life. I hope we have. We've been doing this for a while. We've intended to be a positive influence. So yeah.
So yeah, help pay for the batteries, right?
Yep. Yeah, batteries, hosting costs, just a bunch of little things. It's not that expensive to do the podcast, but everything, if you can help, it would help. But you don't have to, of course.
No. If you want to. You come into a bit of a windfall, hey.
Yeah.
Spread the wealth, baby.
Is that all? That's all the things? I think that's all the things.
All right.
Yeah.
Final
thoughts? I don't know.
Keep watching the skies.
Is that X-Files?
That is an X-Files.
Okay, yeah. Keep watching. Keep
watching the skies and keep scanning the nets.
I want to believe. Yeah.
The truth is out there. Yes, I'm quite happy it's back on. It made me feel young again.
Oh, and one other thing, we did talk a lot about the X-Files. There is another podcast that I like. Might as well give it a plug. The X-Files Files with Kumail Nanjiani. You probably hear a lot of the same discussion that you just heard, but you'll hear different set of geeks talking about it. So if you have time,
don't know, might be spoilers though. We tried to keep this as spoiler-free as possible, just in case you TiVoed.
Yeah, there's not too many. I probably don't.
Spoiler! If you TiVoed it, the first 20 minutes are sports people talking about nothing of relevance.
Yeah, that happened.
Yeah. I hope you wanted to watch Mike and Molly on afterwards, because that's the only way you're going to watch the entire first episode. Ooh.
Well, and people get it on streaming anyways. Yeah. Is it on CTV website? Might be. Sometimes they put up episodes for free. Especially first episodes they like.
I believe they would have something like that up there.
Yeah.
I don't know, give a look, give a check.
Yeah, I'll check that too. Okay, I've been Josh Gillette.
I've been Ryan Kirkby. See you in 7 days.
7 days.